Hello, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Really excited. The most exciting time of the year as football is back. I think all of us are real tired of betting baseball. It's been a long summer. I think we're all ready for the fall for something new. A little bit about my background. I built a quantitative machine learning model that picks the most optimal plays in college football. Been testing it over a few successful years, made some additions over the winter that I'm really excited to put into practice this season. Happy to share it all with you. My model takes into account 4 different variables across college football teams, these being an offensive score, a defensive score, a tempo score, which is how fast teams play, as well as run bias, which is how much more likely they are to run versus pass when given the opportunity. So for this week, I have 16 plays across 13 total games, starting off with my first game that I'm taking a look at this week, which is Coastal Carolina versus Jacksonville State. Both of these are really middling teams, nothing really to write home about. They're not expected to be especially good. When I'm looking at the tempo score, it's a little bit of an interesting story. Coastal Carolina is one of the slowest playing teams, ranked 101st in tempo, whereas Jacksonville State is dead first in tempo. One of the things to take into account with Jacksonville State, they tend to be a more running biased team. They tend to run the ball more often than pass it. With that being said, looking at the team statistics, my model spit out Coastal Carolina versus Jacksonville State, under 56. I took that yesterday at Caesars. For all these plays, I took them yesterday. I'm bringing the results to you today. It takes a little bit to put the video together. So the next game that we're going to take a look at is really one of those classic college football matchups. This being Temple versus Oklahoma. Week 1, a lot of times these strong teams will schedule a weak opponent to play just to get ready for the season. In this case, Temple's traveling to visit Oklahoma. Temple is one of the weakest teams. I project them to be one of the weakest teams in college football, especially when it comes to defense. They're ranked close to last. Temple, however, though, plays very quickly. They also tend to throw the ball more than pass the ball. Looking at Oklahoma's in the top 20 in both offense and defense. As well, they tend to be one of the fastest playing teams. They tend to be really split between runs and passes. With that in mind, I took Temple versus Oklahoma over 58.5, and I took that on Prime Sportsbooks. So moving out to the state of Ohio, we have the game between Akron and Ohio State University. So Akron's really projected to be one of the weakest teams. Its offense is projected to be one of the weakest offenses in college football. Defense is really near middle of the pack, a little bit less than average. Both of the teams tend to be really slightly less than average in tempo. They both tend to lean a little bit more towards passing. Ohio State is ranked 25th in offense, but is a second rank in defense. So the pick that I have for today, really one of my classic football college plays, Akron plus 50.5. I think that Akron will be able to stay in the game enough to not lose by more than 50 points. Sometimes you have to take these giant spreads in college football if you want to make money. It can be uncomfortable to take a team that's significantly worse. But long term, it can be profitable to take these giant spreads. So that's what I did this week with Akron plus 50.5. So moving on to the state of Texas, we have Colorado State visiting the University of Texas. Colorado State is one of the weakest teams as well in college football. Their offense is slightly better than their defense. They tend to play very quickly. They also tend to pass. When I look at Texas, I have Texas as the 4th ranked offense in college football this year. As well, they have a decent defense, but not to the same degree that their offense is. They tend to play quicker than average, and they tend to be really split between passing and running. So I'm actually going to double dip in this game, and I'm taking Texas minus 32. I took that at Prime Sportsbooks. As well, I'm taking Colorado State University and Texas over 59.5, also taken at Prime Sportsbook. Moving on, I'm going to stay in Texas, and we're going to take a look at UTEP versus Nebraska. So UTEP is really one of our bottom-ranked teams. They tend to play rather slow. They tend to run the ball slightly more than they pass the ball. Nebraska is an interesting story. Nebraska is one of those marquee football teams. However, in this case, they're projected to have a very weak offense as well as a very strong defense. They tend to play the game very slowly. They tend to be more of a running team versus a passing team. With that in mind, this is another game that I'm going to double dip on, and I am taking both UTEP plus 27.5, and I took that at Caesars. As well, I'm taking UTEP and Nebraska under 49.5, and I took that at Prime Sportsbooks. So coming back east, we're going to take a look at Eastern Michigan versus Massachusetts. So Massachusetts perennially is not a good football team. Same thing really with Eastern Michigan. Both of them are ranked near the bottom. Eastern Michigan's defense is close to average, but not necessarily there. They both tend to play kind of slow. Other things are really average about them, but even though Eastern Michigan's defense is significantly better than Massachusetts' offense, They're the underdogs in this game, which is why I like Eastern Michigan plus 1.5, and I took that at FanDuel. So in another classic Week 1 college football matchup, we have the University of Ohio visiting Syracuse. University of Ohio, despite being really one of the weaker teams in college football, they have a very decent defense, really in the top quarter, top 40% or so of college football teams. They tend to play a slow game. With Syracuse, they're near the middle in both offense and defense. So with that said, the third game that I'm going to double dip on today is going to take the University of Ohio plus 17.5. I think that defense will keep them in the game as well. Because both of these teams are slower playing teams, both better at defense than they am at offense, I'm taking Ohio and Syracuse under 47.5. I took that at Caesars. Moving on to two teams that are really some of the better teams, really unbalanced between defense and offense. I'm looking at the game between Miami, Ohio, and Northwestern. So both of these are very weak ranked offenses, but very decent defenses. Miami, Ohio is one of the slowest playing teams. They also tend to be more biased towards the run. So in the game between Miami, Ohio, and Northwestern, I took under 43.5, and I took that at FanDuel. So taking it down south, we're moving down to South Carolina versus Old Dominion. Old Dominion is visiting South Carolina. South Carolina is better ranked all around. Old Dominion has one of the weakest defenses. They also tend to play a very quick game. Same thing with South Carolina. They have a slightly better defense than offense, but they tend to be very quick. They tend to throw the ball a lot. And for that reason, my model, my system spit out Old Dominion, South Carolina, over 53.5, and I took that at Prime Sportsbook. So we're going to continue on. Moving out west, we're taking a look at UNLV and Houston. So UNLV has an okay offense, not a very good defense. Looking at Houston, same situation. An okay offense, a horrible defense. Both these teams tend to play quick. Houston tends to throw the ball more often than run. So in the game between UNLV and Houston, I like over 54, and I took that at Prime Sportsbook. So we're going to continue on west. We're going to go to the farthest reaches in the United States, as west as you can go, and look at the game of UCLA versus Hawaii. So UCLA has a slightly better than average offense. They have a very good defense. They tend to play a quick game. Looking at Hawaii, their offense is ranked to be better than their defense. They tend to pass the ball a lot. So looking at this game, I think it'll be a quick game. I think UCLA has the advantage, which is why I took UCLA minus 12.5, and I took that at DraftKings. So coming down south, we're going to go to the state of Georgia, and we're looking at the game between Georgia State and Georgia Tech. This is not a balanced matchup. Georgia Tech is obviously the better team. One of the things that would worry me about Georgia Tech is their low-ranked defense. Both these teams tend to be running teams, which usually bodes well for a slower-paced game that's lower scoring. With that in mind, I like Georgia State plus 22, and I got that at Caesars yesterday. So in our last game of Week 1 in college football, I'm looking at James Madison University against Charlotte. James Madison is really the better team here all around. Their offense is significantly better than Charlotte's. As well, their defense is better than Charlotte's as well. So despite them being on the road, I took them, James Madison University, minus 6.5 at 108, and I took that at Prime Sportsbooks. Thanks so much for joining. I plan to release these videos either Sunday nights or Monday during the day. I hope you'll stay with me for the season. If you will, like and subscribe. Stick around. Let's work together this season and make it a great one. Thanks so much.